Hello everyone, and welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War. This time we are doing Matthew's bad ending. It took me probably 15 minutes to go through and finally get this because I couldn't really understand what I was doing wrong, and I still kind of don't, but finally got it, so here we are. I'm sorry if there's any background noise, as I live in a dorm, so people do have people over right now, so if you hear that, I'm sorry, I can't do much about it. So let's continue. We quickly rushed into the Demon Lord's castle, desperate to get inside and aid Diana in fighting the Demon Lord. As we rushed in, however, we stopped to see Diana and the Demon Lord standing off. Diana had her saber tightly gripped in one hand while she glared daggers into her opponent. The Demon Lord carried a large smirk on his face as he stood on the dais of the throne. As Matthew and I entered, his smirk grew that much wider. Matthew, however, seemed to care more about the woman kneeling on the ground beside the Demon Lord with her hands on her knees, frowning at him.
Mother! Ah, there he is, my son.
Get him out of here now!
What? I stared as she continued to face the Demon Lord. What was she talking about? The Demon Lord simply laughed and pointed at Matthew.
Well, what are you waiting for? Claim your throne. What are you talking?
At that moment, Matthew's body began to pulse with a faint blue light. He curled over his body and gripped his head, digging his fingers into his hair. Matthew, what's wrong?
Get him out of here!
I rushed to Matthew, now terrified to what was happening. Before I could place my hands on his shoulders, however, Matthew vanished into a dissipating afterimage. Huh? I quickly looked over to see Diana with a knife embedded into her neck. Multiple other knives protruded from her limbs and back, like she had been sprayed with a barrage of daggers. Diana! Diana's body fell forward, landing with disgusting thud, before a fresh pool of blood began to drain from her onto the floor. In front of her, however, was a crazed-looking Matthew. His lips drew across his face in an almost psychotic grin, watching Diana's body bleed out as he chuckled quietly to himself.
Now that is a perfect son.
Matthew? Matthew turned his gaze to me, licking his lips hungrily.
Who's that? My name's Zekiru.
I couldn't believe my ears. What was happening? Why was Matthew doing this? Matthew cracked his neck before licking his lips and calling out.
Racer. Uzeres. Omaris. Ezreal.
One by one, each incubi brother appeared in the throne room mid-swing from a fight, but stopping at the new situation. My mind froze. They were separated from their wives now. What would happen to the girls if the incubi were here?
Matthew, what is the meaning of...
Didn't expect that. James didn't get to finish his sentence as a knife flew through the air and landed straight between his eyes with a terrifying thud. The blade's end protruded from the back of James' head as the light died from his eyes. James! As James fell back and landed on the marble floor, the others looked at Matthew in pure shock.
You little fucker!
Sam ran at Matthew, raising his sword high. Matthew, on the other hand, bounced a knife in his hand before chucking it at his brother. Sam swerved to the side, dodging it, but ran up against a vanishing afterimage. Before my eyes, Matthew's new blade appeared in Sam's body, rammed through his back and chest. I felt my heart sink into my stomach as I watched Matthew pull his sword back out and swing at Sam's neck, effectively beheading him.
2 down, boy!
Jesus. Matthew laughed hysterically as he turned to face his remaining 2 brothers. I felt the need to run, but my legs wouldn't move from their place out of fear. Was the Demon Lord forcing me to stand there and watch? Eric surrounded himself with his tendrils while Damien formed a sword in his hand, both now broken over what their brother had done. This was a nightmare, but the scent of blood was too real for that to be so. This couldn't be happening. Rolling his shoulders, Matthew began to walk towards Eric. In reply, the older brother shot out his tendrils, aiming to skewer his corrupted younger brother. The tendrils managed to find purchase, but Matthew's body quickly vanished, as if it was never even there. Eric looked around, panicked, as did I. Where did he...
No!
I looked at Damien, seeing him stare horrified at the air above Eric. As I turned to see what Damien witnessed, I gasped. Matthew was smirking down at Eric with a wall of knives between them, forming a ceiling over the older brother. As Eric finally looked up from Damien's cue, Matthew released the wave, letting the knife slice through Eric and pin his body to the ground. I felt like screaming. I felt nauseous. However, my body wouldn't move. Why? I felt a strong hold on me, keeping me in place, and knew that the Demon Lord had to be involved. Matthew landed on the ground and turned his head to Damien, who was both filled with anger and racked with tears.
Why? Why?
Matthew clicked his teeth before charging at Damien, sword raised. Damien effectively blocked his attack, but wasn't prepared for a spray of knives to stab into his back from behind. The image of Matthew disappeared from in front of Damien, while the real Matthew stood a distance away from his dying brother, bouncing a pair of knives in his hand with a chuckle.
That's for making me go to the human world.
At last, Damien's body fell, the ground soaked with his blood alongside his older brother's. Matthew stood along all of them, gazing at his work and chuckling. The Demon Lord let out a proud laugh echo through the air.
Well done. You are more than deserving of my throne now.
You monster! I screamed at the Demon Lord, while wild tears pouring down my face. As my voice rang through the hall, the Demon Lord glared hard at me, making my body completely freeze. He was the one keeping me in place instead of letting me run or fight.
Your part is done, human. Sekiro, get rid of her.
I was quaking on the inside, but I had to watch as Matthew turned to me with a sickening grin. He formed his sword in his hands and slowly began to walk towards me. Matthew, no.
You keep saying that name, but I already told you. My name isn't Matthew. My name is Sekeru, and I am the true Demon King.
Well, that was one hell of an ending. If you guys have anything to say about that, please feel free to comment below, because I was not expecting that. But thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed / didn't enjoy because everybody got murdered in the end, please leave a like. If you have something to say, please leave a comment. And if you would like to see more of anyone's endings or more of the first game of Seduce Me, just leave a comment down below, and I will be sure to do whichever route that you specify you want to see. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later.